Welcome to Phase 7 of Becoming the Living Word. This is the final installment in a 7-part series in which we move into the new covenant by incorporating the mind of God within the Holy Spirit and becoming the living Word. In Phase 1, we came to a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God and followed that decision with a prayer. In Phase 2, we made a map of the ego mind, learning its mechanisms so that moving forward, we could learn to move beyond it. In Phase 3, we began a mindfulness practice in which we began using the principles of non-attachment, non-aversion by finding the middle ground of willingness. We also began incorporating the Holy Spirit within our state of being. In Phase 4, we began to repair our energetic field by making a list of all persons that we have harmed and becoming willing to make amends to them all. We then traveled into the past, bringing forgiveness and unconditional love to ourselves and the others involved. We also began repairing any damage necessary so that moving forward, we could be more centered in conscious presence and responsive to higher mind. In Phase 5, we continued our mindfulness practice, moving into conscious presence and establishing a deeper relationship with the Holy Spirit. In Phase 6, we moved into a living, dynamic, personal relationship with God and began cultivating channels within our own consciousness to incorporate the mind of God, receiving guidance and direction from divine mind. In Phase 7, we begin practicing the principles that we learned as a living system of awareness and become willing to share our new awareness with those around us. So let's get started. If you've been earnestly walking this path, putting one foot in front of the other, you have had a spiritual awakening. That is what this part of the journey says. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. For some, this comes as a burning bush. For others, this comes as a gradual awakening, eyes opening more with each step taken. For me, it was more the latter, although there are major revelations along the way. I can tell you that in practicing this program as a way of life, my spiritual awakening deepens beyond anything I could have imagined when I started, to the point of finding the self that was never asleep. This process is a shedding, not an adding to. So let's look at this phase. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. By living and embodying these principles, we become an example to others. Our light can shine without having to speak a word, and we should be willing to share these principles freely when asked about that light by others. The ego must be sufficiently displaced in order to allow for the reassimilation in the conscious mind of the levels that have lain dormant. But that is what this program is designed to do. A surrender to the process and a willingness to see it through are required. And surrender and willingness are the mechanisms that give the ego its proper function. Practicing the principles of this program in all our affairs takes a commitment. It takes a desire to move to something more, to evolve. We are collectively hitting rock bottom. How far down we have to go depends on each of us to move into our own sovereignty and be a light to others. Let's light the collective darkness. Let us adopt this design for living as our connected self and manifest God's will on this planet. It is a daunting task to save the world, but when we bring it down to the level of these 7 phases, ultimately, the only thing needed is surrender and willingness. To all my brothers and sisters on the path, I say espavo, which in ancient tongue means thank you for taking your power.